Right on. I am gonna hit a homer today.
So, a few days ago, I checked out this little indie game, Alchemical, by Rodbotic. It's a slick little roguelike, fairly early alpha, keep that in mind, about an alchemist participating in that most noble of professions, the extermination of lesser life, of course. Where we disagree is the part where he trusted a wizard, but I'm not about to put a man down for being in a fun-as-hell game. The alchemist, as he's known, takes care of business with scythe and revolver in hand, plying his trade by coating his weapons in alchemical liquid from his backpack, and applying different elements and combinations thereof to his attacks. The enemies the alchemist faces in his new place of work are also elementally coated, meaning you'll need to change which substances you're using on the fly to deal maximum damage, forming the basic moment-to-moment gameplay. You've got to be quick of brain as well as fleet of foot to destroy your foes before they can outnumber and overwhelm you, gathering materials to upgrade your equipment along the way. Despite its unfinished state and fairly stark lack of content, I've been having a lot of fun with this one. The combat is really fast-paced, which I love, and aside from a few niggles I have with the controls, it feels really good to play. So I figure I'd ramble at length about it for a little bit. Seriously, it's a really fun game. I'd recommend checking it out. I've got a download in the description here, and I mean, it's just on itch, so it's totally free. Far as I know, Rodbotic has made it pretty much entirely himself. He posts on Amateur Game Dev Gen, which is a place I have a lot of respect for. For those of you who don't know, the developers of the original Risk of Rain originally posted on there back in the day. So you'll have to forgive me for being biased toward them. Alright, so your heavy hitter is your sickle. While it starts off really slow and honestly like risky to use, your melee weapon is far more powerful than the revolver. And it's usually going to let you kill enemies in one hit, if you've chosen your element well. The higher base damage of the scythe also means that upgrades that are percentage based are going to hit it harder, so it makes those an easy choice to take. Using melee to kill enemies as fast as you can before they can even fully spawn is very important in hard mode. Since you're going to get inundated with so many of the little buggers, it's extremely easy to get overwhelmed. Once you learn the timing, you'll find yourself destroying rooms before you can even get hit. So each weapon in Alchemical can be upgraded down to lines, I guess. If you've played XCOM, it's kind of like how you upgrade your soldiers. You never get locked into a specific path, but you always have one of two upgrades to pick. The Scythe has two very powerful upgrades to begin with, one of which makes it swing way faster and give you a speed boost whenever you swing it. And the other one makes it deal substantially more damage on super effective hits. It's really difficult to pick between the two. I usually lean toward the speed one just because I like being more maneuverable, but the 75% extra damage on super effective attacks is hard to pass up too. The later upgrades are not quite as impressive, and because of the way that materials work in this game, it's not often you're gonna see those. Like, this game is really short right now, unfortunately. There's only one environment, and there's only 3 stages in that environment. There's not even a boss at the end. Like I said, early alpha. So you'll find yourself upgrading usually just like the baseline of each of your pieces of equipment. If you really hyper-focus in, you could probably upgrade something all the way, but I find that that's not really a smart way to go. And on that note, I should probably talk a bit about the ranged weapon. The revolver is really valuable. As much as I talked up the scythe, being able to take out enemies without putting yourself in danger is very nice. And if you pick the right element, once you've taken the, in my opinion, infinitely superior of the 2 upgrades, which is a heavy caliber shot that deals more damage, once you've taken that, you'll be taking out enemies in one hit with it, at least the smaller ones. The other level 1 upgrade you can take with it is Burst Fire, and it doesn't really feel strong enough to be worthwhile. It cuts the damage of each shot in half, but turns each shot into 3. So I know you're technically doing 150% more damage, but it really doesn't feel like it. The second level of upgrades is also pretty unbalanced in my opinion. You've got a ricochet that increases damage every time it bounces, and you've got a stacking buff that rewards you for accurate shots on the same enemy over and over again. Now, normally you'd probably say, well, yeah, bouncing is great. The problem is that you can hit yourself with it, and in a game where even one mistake can just totally fuck you up, I would not recommend putting yourself in more danger. Like, the whole game is around coating your weapons in these elemental effects, right? So if you're in a room and you're shooting fire bullets and you set yourself on fire, you're just, like, done unless you're prepared for it. Of course, maybe if you're better at the game than I am, Ricochet will seem better to you. It's, you know, to each their own. I guess on that note, I should start talking about the elements, considering they are probably the most important element of the gameplay. You've got 6 different ingredients at your disposal: fire and ice, which can't be combined, electric and water, which can't be combined, and healing and poison, which can't be combined. Aside from those pairings I mentioned, you can combine any element with any other element. Sometimes you'll even get like a unique name and effect based on which elements you've combined. I assume eventually every element combination will have a unique name. You know, like water and fire make steam. Your currently selected element or combination can also be applied directly to yourself by right-clicking. This usually isn't a good idea, but if you've got like healing on, then that's how you get your HP back. Now, each element is technically unlimited, but you do have a certain amount that you can burn through before you're forced into a sort of cooldown mode where you have to wait for it to come back entirely. Where I'm not sure that's particularly well balanced is the fact that applying it to yourself, it's basically impossible to run out, meaning as long as you find a safe place to hide, you can just dump healing goo on your head forever and you'll be fine. I think the healing is kind of meant to be balanced by how slowly it works, but I do think it's a little too easy to get back to full health. Having each element be limited also means that attack speed is not the end-all be-all of combat. I find that to be the case in most of these roguelite games. You really can't afford to go too crazy or you're going to be stuck using the non-elemental versions of the attacks, and I'll tell you what, those do like no damage. Switching elements in combat is super cool. It's my favorite thing about this. In my experience, I could actually feel myself getting more in tune with the gameplay. I began to recognize, like, oh, there's a red spawn-in effect, so I know there's going to be a fire enemy there, so I'll switch to water real quick and go over there and whack that guy before he can even get going. You know, but the other side of the room, there's a bunch of ice enemies, and they don't care about water. So after that, I'll need to switch to fire. I really enjoyed the frenetic pace of it. It's almost puzzle-like. Maybe that's a bit of a stretch, but I don't know. It does feel like you're getting a lot of brain exercise in as you register each thing that enters the battlefield and deal with it in your own way. I do have a pretty big complaint regarding the controls there, though. The way you switch elements is by holding a key and then pressing one of 6 keys, which are normally used for movement. I don't think that's a very good idea. Forcing you to stop moving in a game this fast-paced is not the best design, at least in my opinion. I do think that the best way to handle it would be a wheel that you select from. I know it wouldn't be quite as snappy as just mashing keys based on what element you want, but it would also fix an issue I had where I was able to select basically as many elements as I wanted, regardless if I had the select 3 elements at a time upgrade. That's probably my biggest complaint with the game right now, is that such a major part of the gameplay is, I don't want to say poorly designed, that's harsh, but it could use some polishing. Let's see, what else? You got the enemies. There's not really a lot to talk about there. Its pickings are pretty slim at the moment. You've got the laser guys that come in a couple shapes and sizes. Well, really just sizes. And elements. And then bomb guys that come in a couple elements too. They kind of change behavior based on their element, but not that much. It's clearly just like a proof of concept right now, at least in that department. I think an enemy that rushes to melee range is probably a good idea. One thing I do really like is that the exploding enemies have really distinct sounds based on what they're doing. They've got a searching sound and a hostile sound and a death sound. And that death sound made it to where I was able to kill them with melee attacks and then dash away instantly before getting caught in their explosion. That felt really good to do. I love doing that. And aside from enemies, there's really not a lot to find in the halls just yet. There's chests that have currency in them. They'll give you scrap and money, which you will spend at the shopkeeper. Mamma Mia. Unfortunately, I don't think this lovely lady has a name, but she does have some cool upgrades to spend your money on. You've got your basic stat boosts and stuff like that, you know, move and attack speed, HP, but you also get cool stuff like making your dash into a teleport, and this one that gives you a huge buff while you're on fire. I think being on fire does a little too much damage to you at the moment for that to be really useful, but I think the basic idea is for you to get that and then start dumping money into fire resistance. And there's also an upgrade for your right click that will cause you to gain a huge damage resistance to any element that you pour on yourself. So I'd imagine with the right combinations, the fire thing would probably be really good. The problem, of course, being that you go to the shop twice, and then the game is over. So, you know, I'm sure in the end it'll be cool. I would really love an endless mode. I mean, just like a zero effort, you know, just generating floors over and over again forever kind of mode, just to see how crazy you can get. But, you know, whatever. So, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. The core is really solid. I'm excited to see this game kind of progress through development. I hope that Rodbotic sticks with it. I do have a couple more suggestions I wanted to add in the video. I mean, I don't even know if he's going to watch this, but I'd really like if barrels had a greater indication as to what was inside them. At the moment, their tops are blank. I think that you could put an element or even like a light on top to indicate what is inside, what, you know, how it's going to blow up. As it stands now, I think there's only poison, fire, and healing barrels, so it'd be really nice to have, like, oh, there's a healing barrel over there, I can run over there and break that, and I don't have to use my, you know, healing sip. A true map screen also would be fantastic, because you get rewarded for clearing a stage with, like, an extra chest that gives you a bunch of money. I would really, really love to have a way to check where I've been, because the maps can get a little labyrinthine, and I am stupid and have low IQ. Aside from that, though, and then the issues I mentioned throughout the video, man, I'm excited for this game to get done, which is bad of me, because I know there's a lot of work that's got to go into it. But, I mean, hey, if you ever need some idiot to do voice acting for your game, man, right here. I'll do it pro bono. Like I said, download link in the description. Check out Alchemical. It rules. It seriously does. And not just because of the big titties. And I mean, it's free. You know, what do you got to lose? Anyway, thanks for watching. This has been Torvis. More content to come, hopefully. God bless.